I'm your mother. I have the right, she declared, her voice resonating with an unshakable conviction that chilled me to the bone. She uttered those words only after she, Linda, my own mother, had presented me with the cold, hard proof of her secret heist, $41,000 meticulously siphoned from my painstakingly built emergency savings account, all to bail out my brother Ryan. But this time, it was different. This time, I made one call that didn't just silence her, it shook her world to its core. I am Lucas, 41 years old, and for the vast majority of my adult life, I've been the designated fixer, the silent responder to every family crisis. Not the kind that involves leaky pipes or blown fuses, though I probably could have learned those skills by now. No, for my family, mending always translated to money. My unwilling apprenticeship began subtly when I was 26. A few $100s here and there for Linda's car payment, a temporary shortfall that somehow stretched into months. Then the demands grew bolder, more frequent. Ryan's rent for 8 months while he was between jobs, a euphemism for flitting from one underpaid position to another. Dad's medical bills piled up after his insurance mysteriously lapsed, leaving a gaping hole only my savings could plug. Family vacations were announced as fait accompli, with my financial contribution implicitly expected, often explicitly requested, after the bookings were made. I never said no. That's the insidious thing about becoming reliable. People stop asking for favors and start making demands. They cease to question and simply assume. Ryan, my younger brother by 3 years, has always been the golden child. The athletic star in high school, the charming socialite at family gatherings, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes, even as he systematically did everything wrong. Over 11 years, he bounced through 5 different jobs, each less stable than the last. He bought a monstrous pickup truck he couldn't possibly afford, and married a woman whose taste for designer labels mirrored his own penchant for luxury he hadn't earned. As Ryan's recklessness grew, Linda and Mark, my parents, seemed to soften their parental gaze, growing ever more indulgent. They became increasingly blind to his failings, while I was left to hold the proverbial pillow, absorbing the consequences of his choices. 5 years ago, Ryan bought his house. I knew immediately it was a stretch, a financial tightrope walk he was ill-equipped to handle. His credit score was abysmal, and he barely scraped together enough for a down payment. Yet Linda was ecstatic. She called me that night, her voice overflowing with the maternal pride that stung. She gushed about Ryan, finally settling down, building equity, and becoming a true grown-up. I offered my congratulations, a forced cheerfulness in my tone, and dutifully sent a housewarming gift. I said nothing of my own situation, how I'd been renting the same cramped apartment for 6 years, too consumed with keeping everyone else afloat to consider my own homeownership dreams. What I also didn't tell anyone was that 3 years prior, a quiet act of self-preservation had led me to create a separate, utterly secret savings account. A true emergency fund, its existence unknown to any member of my family. I had learned the hard way that if they knew I had accessible funds, they would inevitably find an emergency for someone else to spend it on. 20% of every paycheck without fail found its way into that account. No debit card number checks, just a silent gradual accumulation of security. It was my $45,000, a number that wasn't just currency, but a testament to countless sacrifices. It represented every ramen noodle dinner eaten while covering someone else's expensive tab. It was the canceled trips, the unfulfilled personal ambitions, the threadbare jacket I'd worn for 4 winters, while Ryan flaunted the latest gadgets. Linda, in her blissful ignorance, had no idea I'd built such a fortress of financial independence. My paranoia, however, was not unfounded. 4 years ago, after a close call when Mark tried to access an old forgotten joint account we'd shared, I had implemented extreme security measures on my new hidden account. Multi-factor authentication, biometric security, strict transfer limits, and a fraud alarm set to activate on any transaction over $600. The account was locked down tighter than Fort Knox, giving me a fragile peace of mind, or so I believed. Last Tuesday afternoon, my carefully constructed world shattered. I had just returned from work, still in my business casual attire, tie loosened, anticipating a quiet, peaceful evening. Then I saw it, Linda's car, in my guest parking lot. She never just stopped by. Our interactions were structured, predictable. Sunday dinners, planned visits, impromptu trips were simply not her style. The second surprise was her grin when I opened the door. It wasn't her usual warm, motherly welcome. This was something unique, a triumphant, almost euphoric smirk that instantly put me on edge. In her hands, she clutched a manila folder, cheap and slightly dog-eared. "I have something to show you," she announced, sweeping past me without waiting for an invitation. "You're going to be so proud of me." I cautiously closed the door, a strange heavy weight settling in my chest. She made herself comfortable on my couch, patting the cushion beside her. As if I were a 10-year-old child, she expected to join her. I remained standing, my gaze fixed on her, a knot forming in my stomach. It was then that she opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, mine. For a moment, my mind refused to process the information. Account numbers, balances, and then the stark, undeniable proof, a record of my emergency fund. "How did you get these?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, a strange sense of unreality washing over me. Linda waved her hand dismissively. "That doesn't matter, sweetheart. What matters is that I found a solution to Ryan's problem." My stomach lurched, dropping like a stone. "What's the solution?" She produced another sheet of paper from the folder, a payment confirmation dated just yesterday. "I deposited $41,000 of your savings to his mortgage company, Ryan's mortgage firm." The room tilted. My legs, suddenly unwilling to support me, made the decision to sit down. "You took my money." I stated the words flat and hollow. "I used family money to help family," Linda countered, as if I were somehow overreacting to a minor inconvenience. Ryan was 3 months overdue on his mortgage. 3 months, Lucas. They were beginning the foreclosure procedure. He could have lost everything. I stared at the document, at my account number, at the sum that had in one audacious stroke shrunk from $45,000 to a paltry $4,000. This wasn't just my emergency fund. It was an emergency, a personal catastrophe. "Your brother needed practical support, not a budgeting lesson or a small loan," she continued, completely oblivious to my inner turmoil. "He needed someone to step up and protect his home, so I did. Yes, you are using your money, but you may rebuild the account. You're an excellent saver. Ryan needs it right now." 20 different retorts fought for control in my throat, each one sharper, more indignant than the last. But what ultimately emerged was a low-controlled accusation. "You stole from me," Linda scoffed, waving her hand again. "Don't be stupid. You can't steal from your family. Besides, Ryan will repay you." I almost laughed, a bitter, humorless sound, when I asked the single word dripping with years of unspoken skepticism. "When he gets back on his feet, once he gets this next promotion, he'll have enough money to repay you with interest." Probably. Her addition of probably was almost imperceptible, a fleeting admission of the monumental uncertainty hanging over Ryan's promises. "Lucas, I don't understand why you are so tough," she pleaded, a hint of exasperation creeping into her voice. "Your sibling was in turmoil. We are family. Families benefit one another. I thought you'd be pleased that your money could be utilized for something beneficial, rather than just sitting in an account collecting dust." Collecting dust. It was gathering security. It was building peace of mind, a future I could call my own. Now, it was gone. "Now it's time to thank your brother," she insisted, entirely misreading my stunned silence. "He is quite relieved. You should have seen his expression when I told him the mortgage was current. He almost cried. He kept mentioning how fortunate he was to have a brother like you." Finally, I looked up at her, really looked. She beamed, apparently swelling with pride at her own generosity and ingenuity. She had just unilaterally seized $41,000 from me, without a word of consent, or even a discussion, and she sat on my couch, openly expecting praise. "How did you gain access to my account?" I asked, my voice betraying none of the escalating fury within. "It has security protocols." For the first time, a flicker of nervousness crossed Linda's face. Her smile faltered, her gaze shifting subtly. "Well, I might have saved some of your old documents from when you lived at home. Your social security card, birth certificate, and other related papers. And I remembered you proposing that you utilize our previous street address as a security response. It wasn't really difficult, just a few phone calls and some forms." She spoke as if describing a mundane chore, not a premeditated act of identity theft, fraud, and a host of other crimes. She had done this, she believed, as a favor. "You had no right," I stated the words sharp and precise. Her composure returned, almost immediately replaced by that familiar, infuriating maternal authority. "I had every right. I'm your mama. I raised you. I fed, clothed, and provided for your educational needs. If anyone has the authority to decide what is best for this family, it is me." Something hot, searing plunged into my chest. Not rage, not sorrow, but a sudden crystalline clarity. The years of resentment of being taken for granted coalesced into a sharp, undeniable truth. "You will thank me later," Linda said quietly, rising from the couch and smoothing her clothes, regaining her dignified posture. "You will understand once you have had enough time to think rationally. I did it for my family." I met her gaze, a thin, chilling smile spreading across my lips. Not a genuine smile of amusement or warmth, but something cold, surgical. She had left the payment confirmation packet on my coffee table like a gift receipt. "If you think so," I replied, my tone deliberately mild, deceptively kind. She studied my countenance, trying to decipher if it was agreement or something far more complex. Shrugging off the uncertainty, she leaned in, kissed my forehead with a familiar dismissive gesture, as if I were still that child she imagined, and then left. The door clicked shut, sealing in the silence. I sat there for 45 seconds, listening only to the faint hum of my refrigerator and the gentle whir of my computer. The apartment was profoundly quiet, the stillness amplifying the enormity of what had just transpired. Then, with a chilling resolve, I picked up my phone. I moved to my kitchen table, pulling open a fresh folder. My actions were deliberate, methodical. Screenshots of my account history, photographs of the payment confirmations Linda had so proudly displayed, audio recordings capturing every incriminating word she had uttered, timestamps and meticulous details, everything a lawyer would demand. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate, calculated theft, executed with astonishing planning. She had unlawfully acquired my personal documents, impersonated me, and bypassed the very security measures designed to prevent such a betrayal. Yet calling the bank immediately felt too reactive, too impulsive. If I reported it as fraud, right then the outcome would be predictable. Linda would immediately hire a lawyer, Ryan would circle the wagons with feigned innocence, and Mark would inevitably mediate, which always meant pressuring me to let it go for the sake of family harmony. I had witnessed this disheartening pattern countless times before. Problems were swept under the rug, consequences were diluted, and those who created the chaos learned absolutely nothing. Not this time. I spent an hour researching bank fraud and identity theft protocols. The information was stark. An immediate report would prompt the bank to freeze everything, reverse the transaction, and most likely file a report with law enforcement. Ryan's mortgage payment would bounce, sending him right back to square one, only worse, burdened with penalties and late fees. Linda would instantly know I was behind it. There was a certain poetic justice in that immediate outcome, but it felt simplistic. They would simply perceive themselves as victims of a faceless bureaucracy, blaming the system rather than their own actions. 4 years ago, after that incident with Mark and the old joint account where he tried to quietly borrow a substantial sum without my knowledge, I had set up a proactive fraud prevention method that went beyond basic security. Any suspected activity triggered an automated review period. Transfers, especially large ones, could be flagged and held for 72 hours before being fully processed. I'd been dismissed as paranoid back then, but it was now proving to be my ultimate safety net. I opened my bank's app and navigated to the security settings. The fraud review process was thankfully still active. Linda's payment confirmation date yesterday afternoon meant the transfer was still well within the review window. I dialed the bank's fraud prevention service. When a representative answered, I calmly and respectfully explained that I needed to report unauthorized access to my account. The representative's tone immediately shifted, becoming professional and efficient. She then asked what I wanted them to do. "I want the transaction reversed and my account frozen." I stated, my voice steady. "No one may access it except me, and only with photo identification." "We can definitely do that, Mr. Hale," she confirmed. "Given the circumstances, we will need to file a formal fraud report, because the amount surpasses our threshold. Legal action will most likely be taken." I paused, the word nuclear flashing in my mind. This was the nuclear option. "Can we postpone the law enforcement element for 36 hours? I asked, a calculated risk. "I would like to address this internally first." The representative paused. "I understand the sensitivity, Mr. Hale, but I need to be explicit. If we reverse the transfer, we will notify the receiving institution. There will be fines and costs incurred on their end. This will have immediate and significant consequences." "I understand," I replied, my voice unwavering. "Reverse it. I'll handle this right now." "The reversal will occur within an hour," she confirmed. I hung up, staring at my phone. Within the next 60 minutes, $41,000 would be returned to my account. Ryan's mortgage firm would be notified that the payment had been blocked due to fraud. Linda's phone would ring, Ryan would panic, and they would both realize I hadn't simply accepted what had happened. I glanced at the clock, 5:51 p.m. I wondered how long it would take for the dominoes to fall. I went about making dinner, warming up leftover spaghetti, and ate it at my kitchen table laptop open beside me. It was just another Tuesday evening, deceptively normal, except my phone lay next to my plate volume turned up as I checked it every few minutes. 6:22 p.m., nothing yet. 6:41 p.m., still quiet. At 7:05 p.m., it buzzed. A text message from Linda. "Call me when you get a chance." There was no sense of urgency, no hint of dread in her casual demeanor, only a serene unawareness of the storm brewing on her horizon. I didn't react. My phone flashed again at 7:12 p.m., her name glowing on the screen. I let it ring 5 times, allowing the anticipation to build before finally answering. "Thank God, Lucas," she gasped, relief palpable in her voice. "I've been trying to comprehend something." Her voice was perplexed, not yet worried, but deeply confused. "What is happening? It's the oddest thing. The mortgage company called about an hour ago to say there was a problem with the payment I made for Ryan. Something about it being reversible. I don't understand. I have the confirmation right here." I took a slow sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. That is strange. They say that the payment was recognized as illegal and reversed, but this makes no sense. I have all of the documentation. I followed the correct procedures. "What techniques exactly?" I asked, my voice flat. Linda paused a beat of hesitation. "I utilized your account details to complete the transaction." "You are aware that we discussed this earlier, Linda," I reminded her, keeping my voice even. "We did not talk about anything. You told me what you had already accomplished." "Yes, absolutely. But the point is that the payment was made appropriately. Therefore, I don't understand why it would be reversed. Do you think it's a bank error?" I set my coffee mug down with a soft clink. "It is not an error." This time the pause on her end stretched longer, heavier. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I phoned the bank this afternoon to report the transaction as fraudulent, which it was, so they reversed it." The silence that followed was so profound, so lengthy, that I half wondered if the call had been disconnected. When Linda finally spoke again, her tone had transformed, completely stripped of its earlier bewilderment. "What have you done?" Her voice was low-laced with dawning horror. "I reported fraud. You accessed my account without authorization using stolen personal information and transferred funds without my permission. That's outright deception," the bank agreed. "Lucas, this is ridiculous." She spat, a sudden shift to outrage. "I'm your mama, and we are family. You cannot accuse your own kin of fraud based on a misunderstanding." "This was not a misunderstanding. You knew exactly what you were doing. You were the one who planned it. You acquired my documents. You impersonated me. Linda, these are crimes, several offenses." "I was assisting your brother with my money," she cried, desperation creeping in. "Idea what you just did. Ryan's payment idea. What you just did, Ryan's payment failed to clear. The mortgage company is enforcing fines. He is about to lose his house because of you. He is likely to lose his home because he has not paid his mortgage in 3 months. And you committed fraud, believing there would be no repercussions." I corrected her calmly, each word a cold, hard stone. "This is ridiculous. You are willing to end your brother's life for money. I am ready to defend myself against theft, even if the perpetrator is my mother. After everything we've done for you, and what this family has given you." Something within me snapped, then not into a volatile rage, but into an almost transcendent ice-cold clarity. The accumulated weight of years of resentment of being exploited finally found its release in words I had long suppressed. "What has this family offered me, Linda?" I asked, my voice quiet but piercing. "Was it actually handed to me? Because from where I sit, I've given you thousands of dollars throughout the years. I've bailed Ryan out more times than I can recall. I've paid Mark's medical expenses. I even paid for family trips to which I wasn't even invited. So what did I get? My mother believing my bank account is community property, while my brother still struggles to pay his own mortgage. That's not fair." "Fair," she echoed, her voice cracking. "Is it fair that Ryan got a brand new car for graduation while I received a card? Is it fair that you paid for his lavish wedding while advising me to keep mine small? Was it right that you took my $41,000 emergency fund, which I had accumulated for years, and just gave it to him without even asking?" Linda's voice was a choked whisper. "I believed you would understand." "I understand perfectly. You chose Ryan over me again, just like you always do. This time, however, there will be ramifications." Lucas, please, she pleaded, a desperate sob catching in her throat. This is something we cannot address. Let me speak with the bank. No, the account is locked. Only I have access to it right now. You are unable to touch it. Ryan is unable to touch it. Nobody can. I overheard another sound over the phone. The unmistakable slam of a car door. Linda took a sharp intake of breath. Ryan just pulled up, she whispered urgently, a new edge of panic in her voice. He got a call from the mortgage company. He is entering. Lucas, you need to fix this right now. I'm not mending anything, I stated the words final. You broke it, you deal with it. I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the surge of adrenaline, a profound release. After years of swallowing words, they had finally been spoken. My phone rang 4 minutes later. Ryan's number. I let it go to voicemail. He called right back then, again and again. The 5th time I answered. What the heck did you do? Ryan's voice was a torrent of raw hatred. I reported the scam to my bank, I replied, utterly calm. They reversed your mortgage payment. Do you have any idea what this will cost me? The fines alone total around $2,800. Furthermore, they are accelerating my foreclosure process. I now have 30 days instead of 90. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate. This is my home, Lucas, my house, and you just ruined it because of what? Are you furious with Linda? I am not angry at Linda, I corrected him. I reported a crime. She took $41,000 from me. That constitutes criminal theft. She was attempting to help me with money that was not her own. I saved that money. I needed that money. She had no right to handle it. Ryan's laugh was harsh, devoid of any humor. What do you need the money for? You don't have children. You don't own a house. You don't have a wife. You just stay in your condo, hoarding money, while the rest of us try to live real lives. Each phrase felt like a stinging slap, but underneath the insult was a confirmation of how my family truly saw me, not as a person with desires and goals, but as a convenient resource to be tapped at their leisure. You're correct, I conceded. I don't have those items. Would you like to know why? Because whenever I save enough for a down payment, someone in my family has an emergency. I've spent 16 years as everyone's backup plan, and every time I try to defend myself, you call me selfish. Because you are selfish. This is family, Lucas. Families benefit one another, he sputtered. Help works both ways, Ryan, or at least it should. When was the last time you helped me? When was the last time you asked if I needed something? Silence. The kind that answers itself. That's what I thought, I murmured. Linda claimed you almost burst into tears when she informed you that the mortgage had been paid. Did you cry because you were grateful or relieved that someone else had once again resolved your issue? This is different. It isn't. It is the exact same pattern. You make decisions you cannot afford. Linda enables you, and I literally pay for it. The only difference this time was that I said no. You said no by committing fraud. I reported fraud. Linda unlawfully entered my account. She utilized stolen papers. She impersonated me. These are crimes, Ryan. The only reason she is not in handcuffs right now is because I urged the bank to postpone the police report, which halted it for a brief time. What? His voice was a choked gasp. The bank wanted to file immediately. I requested 36 hours to handle things internally. But if Linda attempts anything else, that protection disappears. The police become involved. She is charged. You are bluffing. Call the bank. Inquire about the fraud report submitted this afternoon. See if I am bluffing. More silence broken by the faint sounds of breathing and muffled conversations in the background. So what do you want? He finally asked, his voice tight. Money. An apology. I do not want anything from you, and I am not repairing anything I did not break. Then what is the point? Is this just to harm us? The point is about limits. The point is about repercussions. The point is that my money belongs to me, and no one else gets to make judgments about it. Fine, keep your money, but you are also keeping the guilt when I lose my house. No, Ryan, it is on you. You are 3 months overdue on your mortgage. How did this happen? Where did your money go? He didn't respond. The truck, I muttered as the pieces clicked together. You purchased a new vehicle 7 months ago, $49,000, when your old one worked perfectly. That is where your mortgage money went, was it not? My old truck had 152,000 miles and operated well. You wanted a new vehicle. You selected the new truck. When you could not afford both payments, you opted for the truck. Now, you want me to feel guilty for not rescuing you from your own actions. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You chose pride over duty. That is okay, but the repercussions are yours, not mine. Linda is weeping, he said, his voice raw. She is weeping at the kitchen table. Linda is weeping because she was caught. You are really not going to help. I am really not. Then we are done, you and I. After this, we are over. Something inside of me calmed. Not sadness, but a profound sense of relief. Okay, I said, my voice soft. Okay, that is all you need to say. What else is there? You've stated your position clearly. I've stated mine plainly. We disagree on whether stealing from relatives is appropriate. This appears to be a fairly basic distinction. Ryan hung up without another word. I sat there with my phone hoping to feel something, anything. Guilt, despair, and fury were emotions I'd braced myself for, yet all I felt was an overwhelming, almost physical, exhaustion. It was as if I'd been carrying an immense invisible burden for years, a crushing weight of expectation and obligation, and in that moment I had finally, truly let it go. The air felt lighter, a strange quiet calm settling over me. My cell phone vibrated, jolting me back to the present. It was a text from Mark. The message was terse, unsettling. Your mother is very unhappy. Call me. I stared at the screen, a familiar knot tightening in my stomach. Mark, the family's self-appointed diplomat, rarely inserted himself into the messy dramas of our lives. His role was to maintain a carefully constructed illusion of order, to ensure the family machine ran smoothly, mostly by minimizing any friction, and quietly sweeping problems under the rug. His involvement now was a red flag signaling a more significant crisis, and I knew instinctively another attempt at mediation that would inevitably involve my capitulation. Calling him would mean an immediate negotiation, a plea for compromise that would undoubtedly require me to funnel money to Ryan, once more dragging me right back into the suffocating cycle I had just fought to escape. With a decisive thumb press, I turned off my phone, the screen going black, and walked to bed, leaving the digital chaos behind. The next morning I called in sick to work. It wasn't a physical ailment that kept me home, but a profound need for mental clarity, a quiet space to process the seismic shift that had just occurred in my life. My phone remained a dark, silent rectangle until midday. When I finally dared to switch it back on, the screen exploded with notifications, 42 missed calls, 26 text messages, and 5 voicemails. It was a digital siege, a desperate attempt to drag me back into the family maelstrom. I didn't check a single one, not a call, not a text, not a voicemail. My resolve hardened with each unread notification. Instead, I drove to the bank. Emily, the branch manager, met me with a practiced yet genuinely concerned expression. I heard about it yesterday, Mr. Hale. I really apologize for everything that happened. Thank you, Emily, I replied, my voice steady. I need to make some changes to my account. We spent the next hour meticulously sifting through my financial life. I canceled the savings account, where the theft had occurred, feeling a strange sense of liberation as the old numbers were wiped clean, and opened a new one, with entirely different credentials. I then systematically increased all security levels, a fortress built around my finances. Any recovery contacts my family might have had, Linda, Mark, Ryan, were summarily eliminated. Every single security question was changed to something so obscure, so personal, that only I, Lucas Hale, would ever know the answers. Emily watched me, a flicker of sadness in her eyes. I hate that you have to do this, Mr. Hale, but I completely understand why. A thought struck me. Has my mother tried to contact the bank regarding this? Emily hesitated, her professional poker face firmly in place. I am unable to discuss other customers, Mr. Hale. However, I can assure you that any attempts to reverse the fraud reversal would be futile. It would only result in the police report we currently have on hold being immediately filed. Good, I stated, a sense of relief washing over me. I left the bank feeling lighter, as if the physical weight I'd carried had truly dissipated. My money was secure. This time, it was genuinely, truly secure. As I drove home, the quiet hum of the engine, a soothing backdrop, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered, a weariness already settling in. Lucas Hale speaking. This is Sarah Mitchell from First National Mortgage. I'm calling regarding Ryan Hale's account. Our records show you as an authorized contact. Her voice was polite, but firm. I'm not an authorized contact. I cut her off, my patience wearing thin. Your information is outdated. I see. Well, I'm calling to discuss payment options for yesterday's returned payment. I'm not discussing anything related to Ryan's mortgage. That is his responsibility, not mine. I understand how delicate this situation is, Mr. Hale. However, I wanted to see if there could be a private arrangement to avoid foreclosure. Her tone was conciliatory, yet subtly manipulative. So there it was. The mortgage company, like a vulture, was now circling, looking for any shred of financial connection to Ryan. There will be no arrangement. Ryan must handle this himself. Mr. Hale, your brother has 30 days before we proceed with foreclosure. If there's any way you could assist him. My family, I interrupted, my voice sharp with controlled fury, took $41,000 from me without my knowledge or consent to pay Ryan's mortgage. The bank rejected it as fraudulent. That is precisely why you are calling. Now you're attempting to shame me into freely surrendering money that I've already had to fight to reclaim. The answer is no. Do not call this number again. I hung up and immediately blocked the number, my hands gripping the steering wheel. The audacity was astounding. That evening, Mark called. I answered, bracing myself. Lucas. His voice was carefully modulated, an undertone of exasperation. What do we need to talk about in this situation? About what you're doing to this family. What am I doing? I retorted, a bitter laugh escaping me. Mark, Linda stole from me. She committed fraud. This wasn't an error, like adding too much salt to the soup. This was calculated. She took my documents, impersonated me, and committed a crime. Mark sighed, a long-suffering sound. Your family, Lucas, not you, is incorrect about the legalities. Families work through difficulties. We don't drag each other through the mud like this. I did not make matters worse. I prevented a crime from having no consequences. You don't understand. Your mother is distraught. She hasn't eaten much in 3 days. The classic emotional manipulation. Then perhaps she shouldn't have stolen $41,000. I shot back, utterly unmoved. The money would have simply remained in your account, Lucas. You weren't using it. And there it was, the foundational, infuriating belief that fueled their entitlement. My money was not something I was actively using at that precise moment, therefore it was fair game. My blood ran cold. Mark, that money wasn't on my mind to be taken. That money represented my security, my safety net, my future. Just because I'm not using it right now doesn't mean it's available for others to take. Nobody was taking Lucas. Your mother borrowed on Ryan's behalf without asking, without permission, and without a realistic repayment plan. That is taking Mark. That is stealing. Plain and simple. So. A long silence stretched between us. Then his voice came back quieter, tinged with defeat. What do you want me to say? Your mother was mistaken. Okay, she was wrong. But what's done is done right. The question is, what should we do next? We do nothing, I stated flatly, my resolve unshakable. Linda is struggling with the consequences of her decisions. Ryan deals with his, and I defend what is mine. If Ryan loses his house, he loses it. This does not signify the end of the world. He can rent. He's capable of downsizing. He can make different choices for his life. You sound extremely cold, Lucas. I sound finished, Mark. I've been the family banker for 16 years, and the only time I draw a line, I get called cold. I'm selfish. I'm wrecking the family. Have you heard how that sounds? Mark didn't respond promptly. When he did, his voice had changed, taking on an almost ancient, weary tone. Linda would like to know if you'll attend Sunday dinner. No, Mark, I said without hesitation. I'm not sitting at a table pretending everything is fine when everyone believes I'm the villain. If you want to eat dinner with me, we can do so somewhere else. Just us. However, I no longer prepare meals for my family. Are you truly willing to destroy this family for money? I am prepared to defend myself against those who think my boundaries are negotiable. If something destroys the family, Mark, it may not have been as strong in the first place. Mark hung up without a goodbye. I stood in my kitchen phone, still in hand, feeling the profound gravity of what had just occurred. I had virtually severed myself from my family. I waited for guilt to strike, for the familiar pang of remorse that usually followed any confrontation with them. It didn't arrive. Instead, I felt an expansive sense of space, an exhilarating freedom to breathe, and an immense relief from the constant gnawing fear of what disaster would strike next. I walked over to my laptop, and with a newfound sense of purpose, finished something I'd been putting off for 4 years. I started looking for genuine homes in my price range, a place that was truly mine. The very next morning, I called a realtor. 4 weeks later, I closed on a small townhouse with 3 bedrooms, a new kitchen that gleamed under the soft light, and a tiny private garden. It was mine. Every brick, every window pane, every blade of grass. I did not notify or invite my family. I didn't share any photos with them. I moved in quietly on a Saturday with the help of 2 coworkers who had, in the absence of family, become close friends. Sitting on my couch in my living room on the first night in my new home, surrounded by unpacked boxes and the scent of fresh paint, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. A deep settling, undeniable peace. My phone had remained mostly silent. Linda stopped making her daily calls. Ryan had ceased sending his sporadic, demanding texts. Even Mark had stopped reaching out beyond a few occasional non-committal check-ins. I understood what it meant. I'd been cut off, excommunicated, for the unforgivable sin of having boundaries. And surprisingly, I was fine with it. I was more than fine. Until 5 weeks later, when my doorbell rang on a Sunday afternoon. I peered through the peephole and saw Linda standing alone on my doorstep. There was no folder this time, no elaborate props. Just her simple pocketbook clutched in her hand and a weary, drawn expression on her face. I almost didn't open the door, but a flicker of morbid curiosity and perhaps a need for finality won out. "How did you find me?" My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "I contacted your workplace," she began, her voice strained, "and informed them that I was your mother with an emergency. They gave me your new address. I made a mental note to report it to HR first thing Monday morning. Another boundary violated, another manipulation. What do you want, Linda? Can I come in, Lucas, please?" "No." Linda flinched visibly as if slapped. "Lucas, please. I just want to talk." "We talked, Linda. You explained why you believe that stealing from me was justified. I explained that it wasn't. There is nothing more to say." "Ryan lost his house." Her voice was barely a whisper, a desperate plea for sympathy. I didn't react, my face a carefully constructed mask. "They foreclosed 3 weeks ago. He and Lauren are staying with us now. It's extremely crowded and cramped." "I'm sorry to hear that." I offered a flicker of satisfaction I quickly suppressed. "Are you," she challenged, her voice rising slightly, "because you don't sound sorry." Perhaps I was slightly pleased, not because Ryan was suffering, but because the inevitable consequences had finally arrived. "What would you like me to say, Linda? I told you what would happen. Ryan had alternatives. He could have sold the truck. He might have worked more hours. He had the option of downsizing his life to fit his means. He chose not to. That is on him. He is your brother Lucas. He's a 34-year-old man trying to figure out his own life. My intervention isn't helping him." Linda's eyes welled with tears, and this time they seemed real raw. "When did you become so hard? You stole $41,000 from me and expected me to thank you for it. What did you expect?" "I came to apologize." The words astonished me, catching me off guard. "Okay," she continued, her voice gaining a rehearsed cadence. I apologize for accessing your account without your permission. I am sorry I didn't ask. I apologize for justifying it by telling myself I was helping my family." The words were all correct, perfectly sculpted for a heartfelt apology, but the delivery seemed oddly detached, as if she were reciting lines from a script. "Why now?" I pressed, my suspicion unwavering. "Why apologize now, after 5 weeks of absolute silence?" Linda turned away slightly, her shoulders slumping. "Because things are so bad at home, Lucas. Ryan and Lauren are always fighting. Mark is stressed. The house is too small, and I hoped that if I apologized, you would agree to help." There it was. Not a genuine apology, not an expression of remorse, but a transaction, a desperate, calculated plea. "No, Linda," I said, cutting her off before she could launch into another plea. "Please, we need—" "I don't really care what you need, Linda. For 16 years, I cared, I gave, I made sacrifices. And as soon as I stopped, as soon as I finally drew a line, you all cut me off as if I hadn't mattered. Things are difficult for you right now, and you suddenly remember that I exist. That is not family, Linda. This is exploiting people. We are not using you." Her voice was sharper now, a hint of anger replacing the weariness. "Yes, you are. You've always been, and I'm done being exploited. I have my own life now. I own a house. My personal plans, which do not include funding other people's choices." Linda's face stiffened, the last vestiges of performative melancholy vanishing. "You've changed." "No," I corrected her firmly. "I finally gave up pretending that what this family did to me was normal, acceptable, or loving. So that's all, you're going to abandon us? I'm going to live my life. You are welcome to participate in it, as long as you stay within my boundaries." But if you can't, if all you want is access to my money, then we're done. Completely. Linda looked at me for a long, piercing moment, her expression unreadable. Then without another word, she turned and walked back to her car, her silhouette shrinking in the late afternoon sun. I closed the door and leaned against it, standing in my entranceway, my hands trembling slightly and my pulse racing. I had just burned the last bridge, making it unequivocally clear that there was no going back to the way things were. It felt both terrifying in its finality and profoundly liberating in its truth. 7 months later, I'm writing this from my home office, a quiet, sun-drenched space I converted from the second bedroom of my townhouse. Since separating myself from my family, I've been promoted twice at work. It turns out that not constantly worrying about other people's manufactured crises and never-ending problems leaves you with a remarkable amount of mental energy to perform better at your own job. I haven't heard from Linda or Ryan in 6 months. Mark still sends me quick neutral texts on occasion, usually a single word like alive or okay, to see if I'm still functioning. I respond in the same terse, neutral manner. Last week, I got an SMS from an unknown number. It was Lauren, Ryan's wife. "I'm not sure you'll even see this," it began, "but I wanted to let you know we're doing well. Ryan landed a better paying job. We are renting a small flat now. It's not the house, but it's ours. Perhaps he really did have to lose everything. He's different now, more responsible. Anyway, I thought you should know." I did not respond, but I saved the message. Not because I harbored any desire to reconcile or reopen old wounds, but because it powerfully reaffirmed my long-standing beliefs. Consequences educate, enabling doesn't. I'm now dating someone, a wonderful woman I met at a coffee shop downtown. She knows only that my family and I are not close. She doesn't ask for specifics, doesn't pry. She simply respects boundaries, and it's incredibly refreshing. We're thinking about moving in together next year, possibly getting a dog, and quietly, steadily building our own life. A life born of shared dreams and mutual respect, rather than one borrowed, stolen, or given away to others who never truly appreciated it. Linda brought me a folder that day, the one containing my forged signature. I still have it. I keep it in a drawer, not as a reminder of what was stolen, but as a powerful, tangible symbol of everything I got back: my dignity, my boundaries, my future, my life. And yes, the $41,000 that will never again fall into the wrong hands. The document itself, the one bearing the brazen forgery of my signature, still resides within the quiet confines of my desk drawer. It is not hidden away in shame or regret, nor is it kept as a bitter memento of what was so cruelly snatched from me. Quite the contrary. Its presence is deliberate, a constant, tangible reminder, not of a loss, but of a profound reclamation. This seemingly innocuous piece of paper has transmuted into a powerful emblem, a stark and undeniable testament to everything I fought tooth and nail to retrieve. It represents the meticulously reassembled fragments of my shattered dignity, the invisible yet unyielding boundaries I've painstakingly reconstructed around my personal and financial well-being. It signifies the future that once seemed clouded and uncertain, now shining with the clarity of newfound purpose and unburdened potential. Most importantly, it stands for the life that was momentarily hijacked, now firmly back in my command, steered by wisdom gained from adversity. And yes, a significant part of that victory, the undeniable concrete proof, is the $41,000. That sum of money, once perilously close to falling into avaricious hands, is now secure. It serves not just as a financial recovery, but as a robust symbol of justice, served a clear and decisive statement that such exploitation will never, ever be allowed to breach my defenses again. It embodies not just monetary value, but the priceless assurance of my regained control, and the peace that comes with it,